I say welcome everyone to our fourth of 5 webinars on the circular economy. Each Tuesday this month from 5:30 p.m. UK time, we have a different speaker presenting their work. Thank you to Dr. David Bozward of the Royal Agricultural University for inspiring this webinar series. And secondly, thank you and welcome to our speaker today, Ms. Linda Klunder. Ms. Klunder is an entrepreneur and a graduate of Wageningen University and Research. She is co-founder of Kumasi Drinks, a company that generates beneficial social impact along the cocoa value chain. The structure of today's webinar will look like this. Ms. Klunder will present for around 20 minutes, and after her talk, the floor will be opened up for your questions and answers. Ms. Klunder, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simeon. Great being here. First of all, if you want to open your camera, if you feel comfortable with opening your camera, that would be great. So I know sort of to whom I'm talking to, especially for the Q&A, of course, because at the first I will be sharing my screen. But I always like to have at least the idea that online is a bit interactive as well. So feel free to open your camera. And then I will be sharing my screen for the first 15 minutes or so to give a small presentation on what it is of who I am, especially on what it is that I do with our company Kumasi. I'm gonna click this away. And Simeon, you let me know if something is going wrong with share screening. I hope so. So Kumasi Drinks, welcome tonight. I'm really happy to see that you're joining to learn a little bit more about our circular business model. What I'm going to discuss today is quickly about who I am and what my background is. You might have heard already a little bit about this, but I will just explain 2 or 3 sentences on how I got involved in our company Kumasi Drinks. Then we will talk about Kumasi, first of all, the company and our impact, and then a little bit about local juice revolution that I've been thinking about for not too long. And with your background in entrepreneurship and also the background of the university where you're all active in, it would be great to have like a small discussion maybe on what a role could be of local juice production facilities within Western Africa. So I'm really curious to hear your ideas about that and also really learn from you especially. And afterwards, of course, a Q&A or a discussion on Kumasi, and love to have some critical questions. So what you think that some of the benefits could be of such a business model, but also some of the challenges maybe from your perspective as either an academic or student or an entrepreneur yourself. So first of all, my name is Linda. I have a background in a bachelor's in international relations and organization and politics and Arabic. And I've worked for a few years in the Middle East for a non-governmental organization. However, although I love my work, especially working in Egypt, I wanted to do something that I could quantify a little bit more. So I was really working on peace dialogues and getting several minorities together within peace talks, which was incredible to do. But I wanted to move a little bit more to the economic part of change making. So I started a master's at Wageningen University where I did development economics and specialized in econometrics. Not as deep, I didn't do a PhD obviously, but I do have a big interest in making econometric models and also especially in diving into how such models can help us in understanding development questions and challenges. So within Kumasi Drinks, I am mainly responsible for our impact and finance side. The Kumasi Drinks is a company that was born out of a documentary. I will talk a little bit about that after this. And I met Lars Kierveld, the maker of the documentary, around 2 years ago, and we had an immediate connection on making impact via social enterprise. So during my master's, I quit my job at the NGO, and 2 years ago, we started Kumasi Drinks to really make a social enterprise, a successful social enterprise, where we're selling amazing drinks with a lot of impact. So that's how I got into the juice business. No juice background at all, and I think sometimes that's an advantage. Of course, it's also sometimes a challenge when you have a company in a sector in which you do not have a background. But we do have a clear, a very strong the background in our team is storytelling, which is I think one of the most important things for a good brand is good storytelling and an impact measurement, which is for our sales extremely important as well. So what do we do at Kumasi Drinks? I want to show you
is a cocoa pod.
A small video so you get an idea of our work. So please have notice me if you don't hear the sound, and if you hear it, then I'll just play it.
This is a cocoa pod. A cocoa pod contains cocoa beans, and around those beans is a white, juicy pulp. It's fresh, fruity, and extraordinarily tasty. But the chocolate industry is only interested in the beans, so that delicious pulp gets thrown away. In Ghana alone, every year about 600 million liters of luscious cocoa fruit juice just flows into the ground. An enormous waste, we believe. And that's why we've turned it into a soft drink, so that the cocoa farmers can earn extra money and the precious juice is not wasted. The fresh cocoa beans surrounded by pulp go into a press. The juice is extracted and the beans go back to the farmers to dry for the production of chocolate. The farmers receive immediate payment and thus earn not only from their cocoa beans, but also from the pulp, up to 30% extra income. The juice is immediately refrigerated and transported to a factory of our partner in Ghana. The juice is pasteurized and packed airtight. Then it's shipped to the Netherlands where pure juice is mixed with just water or carbonated water. So, without additives. Into the bottle, label on it, and voila! Here they are, the Kumasi Sapi and the Kumasi Gassi.
So that's what we do. We make soft drinks. It's as easy as that. And why we do it? Because we believe that so far that the cocoa pulp, the fruit pulp around the beans, the cocoa beans that we all know, was wasted, and we believe that it's a waste to waste food, and at the same time waste a possible income for a group of farmers that is unfortunately extremely poor. So that's our logic. What is interesting to know is that within the waste debate, we have a lot of focus on what we're wasting at the consumer side, but around 40% of all the waste that happens when it's supply chain starts at the beginning. So with our product, we really hope to increase the income of farmers, but also create more awareness around the fact that there's still a lot to gain with good technologies at the beginning of supply chains, not only at the end. We don't only have to look at our plates. There's way more that we can do. We focus on telling the story. So we really want to make a pink print. It says blueprint here. Everybody knows what a blueprint is. I call it a pink print because I don't necessarily believe in a model that fits every single farmer's reality, of course. But with a pink print, we have several modules on how we believe we can impact farmers' life next to increasing income by purchasing the juice. We also look at community interventions. So that's what we do. With regards to impact and validation, we focus on the several topics. First of all, living income and the gender gap by increasing the income, as stressed already. Next to that, we are adding value locally by setting up both really small local facilities, not for export, but also for import. And with our purchasing partner, Goa, we're focusing on the export market. They do our processing so far, and they have around 40 to 50 people employed. And in the high season, 75 people employed within the Asinfosu region in Ghana. So that's really great to see as well. We're focused on transparency. We can follow our impact back to the farmers on an individual level with regards to the income we're creating, and to the community with regards to the community impact. So that's really cool also for storytelling. And we really believe in fair change. So we hope by telling the story and storytelling, we can really get other cocoa players and hopefully other supply chain players and other commodity players also to making an impact. I want to highlight just quickly the living income gap that we work on. So around 79% of the farmers that we work with live below a living income. This is in Ghana specific, in the region where we're active in. and we can increase this, we can decrease this gap between 10 and 30% by just purchasing the juice. And that's really cool to have such a quite a big impact on the communities in which we work by just purchasing the juice. Sounds easy, it's really difficult to get good quality of juice, but it shows that by bringing technology to the beginning of supply chains, that you can have quite some impact. So that's really cool. And next to that, we also focus on increasing the financial literacy and business savviness of the communities, as unfortunately the plots of lands are getting smaller and smaller, and we hope to inspire the youth, but also women within cocoa communities to maybe take on different jobs within communities as well. However, for us, so that is the impact part of our company. That's what we focus on. But what we want to do is bring this story to a lot of people. We don't necessarily believe in that bringing an impact story has to be in the marketing manner that we're knowing from fair trade or solidaridad, for instance, that these type of communication are really effective for their target audience, but we are really focusing on creating a trendy, a lifestyle brand is what we refer to it. So as you might have seen within my presentation, but also our branding is very flashy, and we don't scream impact. The first thing that you have to notice is that it's a cool brand, and then the second line is hopefully that you are aware that what you're drinking is also good. But everything should be about the fact that you want to be associated with the drink, and that's why this is sort of the voice of tone of our marketing.
Is an extraordinary drink made from the extraordinary fruity juice of the cocoa fruit. For the hipster who wants to stand out among all the latte macchiatos with oat milk. For the yogi who lives and is 100% natural. For the businessman who would like to give back to the world. And for everyone who just wants something different.
Same as usual, sir.
Naturally. What else?
Kumasi, naturally different.
So that is our big export line, what we focus on. So that is the Kumasi brand here in the Netherlands, where we started currently, and that is what we've been working on so far. However, I've just come back from the field. I've been in Ivory Coast and Ghana for the past couple of weeks, where we're also focusing on setting up local juice lines. The difference between the local juice lines and the juice line, the juice production facility where we're sourcing from now, is that first of all, we are doing them together with a production partner in Ghana. So we're purchasing the juice now via them. And that is a really high quality of juice and has been certified also for export. But we believe that there's way more to the juice than merely the export. We want to add as much value as we can locally. So what we've done the last 3 weeks is that we're setting up a Wafle in the Ivory Coast and Bango, two very local lines where that it will only be serving the Wafle and Bango area and the surrounding communities. And we hope that a lot of such small juice facilities, local juice facilities will start popping up. And we're now really in the initial phase of thinking how we're gonna organize that, and also if we're gonna either do it via a Kumasi Foundation or a Kumasi that is going to be part of our business model. So with the business model, we can also support other local facilities to start up. And I think that would be a perfect discussion point maybe to discuss here, as you all have a background in entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial studies. So if you have ideas on this, I will be more than open to receive some literature or some examples of what you think would be a good way to approach such a new part of our current strategy. And what you see here is at the left picture, you see our team in the Ivory Coast producing our local juice there, which is a pulp. Where you see the pulp, and this is the machine how we press the juice. And here you see the farmers tasting the cocoa juice for the first time. And that was really a great experience. So I would love to hear in the Q&A a little bit about what your ideas are, what you find inspiring, also if you have some tips and ideas with regards to the local business cases. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions for me next week, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Linda. I have lots of questions already, but before I ask my own, I've browsed through people I know in the audience, and I know some are actually from Ghana. Some are also PhD candidates and research food security. I know one person works in the coffee value chain and is a third generation family farmer. And I'm very happy also to see a development economist, and she has her hand up, so I will let, if it's okay, Ingrid, if you'd like to talk. It's great to see you, have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's a pleasure to see you. Linda, thank you so much. What a wonderful project. I would like to hear a little bit about organizing the group to try to establish a supply chain. So you talk about impact on women. How did that work out in those initial phases?
Yeah, thank you, Ingrid. Great to have a development economist here as well. So what we're doing within our supply chain is a few things. So we started off with looking for great partners. Our current processing partner is GOA, and we have a clear overview of all the farmer and farmer communities who are active in their chain. And together we've set a few clear impact targets. One of these is involving more women within communities, and we're doing that by setting up, for instance, VSLAs for women, so we can also increase the savings that these women, if we active within our chain, will have to their disposal, even if they're not the farmers with whom we're interacting directly. So we're really looking at, okay, what is the percentage of farmers that are male female within our chain? We try to increase the female participants as well, but on the other hand, the female farmers that we work with, on the other hand, we're looking more community broad. So it's really a community intervention and not merely only an intervention focused on the farmers, but really looking at the possible role that the woman or the women within a cocoa household could have within the chain that we're organizing. But it's still a challenge. So we're really collaborating with, for instance, Anna Laven a lot on this at the Royal Tropical Institute to see how we can best organize our major impact targets.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ingrid, and I apologize for putting a label. You're not only a development economist. I'm sure there are many other skills and traits that you'd like to use in asking the question. So I'll try and introduce people otherwise in the future. If we have another question, please let me know. Either type it in the box or just speak up. I have a question already, Linda's. Okay, I'll give priority first to David. Dr. Bozward, please go away with your question. Go ahead.
I think, okay, so you've got this juice in the Ivory Coast, and the way I see it is are you starting the juice bars yourself, or are you giving the juice to other people who then start the juice bars? Because what I'm thinking of is about the entrepreneurial ecosystem that you need to create around your organization there, because once everybody's got some skin in the game, the bigger the amount of people that will support you, and the bigger it'll get, and the more sustainable it will get in business terms. And I'm just wondering what are your thoughts about that, and what's your vision on how to make sure that everybody makes money out of this in the Ivory Coast?
Yeah, for our bigger business case, it's easier because we have the processing partner that pays directly, and for the two new local business cases, we're really looking into what's going to be the best way to make it as sustainable as we can. So I know from literature that indeed having wherever you are starting a company, having skin in the game is course important. People will have to buy in a certain way, and there are several ways I believe in which we can do it. You sort of the model in which we could either work via a service fee or with a startup budget, where we are providing certain materials, and then we can offer several modules that the cooperatives that we're working with can often purchase via us, for instance, to assure that they do have access to all the right materials. But I think this is really going to be the challenge for how are we gonna, now we just have 2 local facilities that we recently started. How are we gonna make it really a juice revolution that is gonna work? And that is, I think, the local entrepreneurial question that we have to be raising the upcoming months, to really see how we're going to make a sustainable impact on a local level as well. And then potentially the impact can be huge, because if we find a model that works and we can find the right funds around it, we can have around 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 local juice facilities that run on their own.
Yeah, I think that's the revolution, isn't it?
That's the revolution, exactly. Yeah. We're selling juice, and that's great, and we're really hopefully changing the mindset of the consumers on cocoa here in the Netherlands now and in Europe. But the real revolution, I believe, has to happen within the producing countries, where we can add the most value in the end.
Okay, thanks. I'll let somebody else go.
Thank you very much. So we're starting to see questions come in faster, and first up was Robert. And if you'd like, please speak up. I can read out your question, but I know, Linda, that Robert's calling in normally from Colombia. I hope it's okay if I say so.
Thanks, Simon. Hi, Linda. I have 2 questions, actually. The first one is the people from Ghana, they understand that they are working from a revolutionary point of view about the circular economy, or about the waste, that the waste of the all processing cocoa, because I know the processing cocoa, and I know the parts that are not the bean of the cocoa are highly contaminant in the environment. They understand that they are doing a new philosophy to do business, the people from Ghana, or it's just the people are watching that like a new business?
So if I understand your question correctly, they are the farmers that we work with are definitely aware of the fact that this is a new approach. They've been working with cocoa their entire lives, and they know the taste of the pulp, but they've never really had the possibility to make a drink with a shelf life. It ferments really quickly, of course, so that is especially the knowledge that partners have to bring in. It's like, how do you, what are the hygienic rules to harvest in the right way? What are the pots that are good for the creation of juice? And how are we going to make sure that it has a shelf life of at least a year? Otherwise, it's not an interesting product to sell. So there is a lot of conversations with the farmers, and they are really aware that this is a new approach, but they're especially also really happy with the fact that they're now paid as well for something that they were producing already for decades, but they weren't paid for. And they're extremely proud of cocoa. Cocoa is like gold, right? In Latin America, cocoa is also such a wonderful and beautiful, but also important cultural product. It's a bit different culturally, maybe in Ghana and Ivory Coast, but for the income, everybody loves cocoa. So seeing a product made from a commodity that you love, I think it makes everybody proud. I'm a Dutch girl, I'm proud of cheese. Although I'm not producing cheese, you will always be sort of proud of the products that the country is known for. And that's really what you see as well among the farmers that we are working with currently. I hope it answers your question.
Well, it's draw my attention about the part of the cocoa when you harvest from the tree. You only use the bean, but there is I don't know the name in English, but you use the white part. Yeah. It's very sweet, very nice. I like it. It's when I cut from the tree and eat, it's very delicious. But if I understand well, you do, or your company do the juice from that part of the cocoa? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. From the
Okay,
white quality.
Linda, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Robert.
It's interesting you bring up the idea, Robert, of contamination. I know that, Linda, one piece of literature that could be of interest is actually from the Bern University of Applied Sciences. His name is Estuardo Gomez, and this is from 2018, 2019. And I know one of their research questions was looking into the containers that transport cocoa beans in jute bags from ports in West Africa to Europe. That's as much as I can remember, but I know that's one name to look at, and I'm happy to share that reference later. And I know Ingrid would also know a bit on that in terms of literature. And we have lots of questions from everyone. So I'll go first to Dylan. Would you like me to read out your question, or last time it worked very well if you ask yourself? Would you just let me know? If you don't, I'm happy to read it out. So Linda, Dylan is asking first, I understand the importance of transparency to verify value chain credibility and impact. And there is a current trend in coffee to be transparent in the financial aspects of the value chain. Do you have this level of transparency, and do you see value in this?
I see a lot of value. Thank you, Dylan, for this question. So I assume Dylan is the third generation coffee. Yeah.
I hope it's okay. Say so, Dylan. Yes.
Sorry,
Yes,
I've been
it is.
informed, Dylan. I've been informed about who was joining. So thank you. Great. I think there's also still a lot we can learn from coffee. So that is interesting. But yeah, we are. I'm a big fan of transparency. And maybe it's easier to say we're a really small company and you can still shape your entire data gathering and data sharing and open source thinking. But for me, transparency is extremely important. And there has been, of course, a lot of developments with regards to blockchain. Within the chain we have with COA, we do have blockchain. But for me, the most important part is how the insights are created and what is on that blockchain, right? Blockchain has become really a buzzword for me to a certain extent. But what is blocked on that blockchain that we have now is the MOMO, so the mobile payments, of course, to a certain extent anonymous, but to the farmers that we work with. So based on that, it's easier for us in combination with the household surveys that we want to execute. It's easier for us to trace the impact that we have. And that's also something I really want to start sharing with our consumers, that with researchers, with universities, but also with funds and the bigger companies, like, hey, this is possible, and let's be a bit more open about which part of our revenues, profits, etc., are going, and try to rethink the distribution along that chain together. And the first start is that we at least know what the distribution is, and then starting from there, we can really start a change. So I think transparency is really important.
Thank you for the question, Dylan.
Thank you.
I'm going to go see us as if we're waiting in a line at a cafeteria for our food. So I'll respect whoever asked the question first. And next was Deji with, what is the impact of transportation cost on the price of Kumasi drinks?
It's not the biggest impact on our costs. The juice is still really expensive to make. It's a new product, so that's a big impact on our costs. And producing every product on not a extremely high scale. We all know economies of scale. Well, we're not at a big scale yet, so production costs are still quite high for us. Yeah, so the transportation costs are not the biggest impact.
Thank you. I'll go straight to Yao, and it's great to have you with us. So Yao, if you'd like to ask yourself, that'd be great. It's Linda, so you know, I met Yao about 2 weeks ago at a conference. And I hope it's okay if I say so, Yao, that you are originally from Ghana. That's okay. And I'm looking forward to your question.
Well, anyway, Linda actually hinted a bit on the question I wanted to ask about the pricing of Kumasi, because I was just trying to find out, do the farmers actually know the value? Because this very interesting thing I'm just listening to now, because I worked in the cocoa industry for about 5 years ago, yeah, in Ghana. And honestly, it's quite something strange to me. Like it's something new, because that whitish juice you're talking about, most of the farmers don't know the value of that. And in terms of economic of scale, production, most farmers are during the main season. The cocoa has got seasons. So during the main season, most farmers are so quick to sell their beans to, how do you call it, this LBCs, that's those who buy the cocoa beans, but they don't have time. I don't think, they don't have time in terms of transportation, how you get the juice from them during the main season. I don't think, because everybody is so quick to get their money fast. What's the next strategy to be able to acquire? What strategy do you have in mind to acquire more juice from these farmers? Because during the main season, I don't think most of them will have enough time to bring their beans to you, because they want the beans out so that they get their money. So do you have any strategy in place just to make, in terms of maybe, I know you were talking about maybe you're quite small, or what's the strategy? I know 2 years along the line, probably you should have a strategy ahead. Do you have any sort of that? Because it's a very nice, interesting thing that you are doing, because those juice go waste most of the time. Do you have a strategy towards that?
So this is a great and really important question, and also something that gives us a headache, obviously. But the solution is that we're producing juice locally, decentrally. So we go to the farmers. They don't have to bring the pulp to us. Also in the 2 decentral setups that I just showed, we go with a press to the farmers. And there the juice is extracted, and then we immediately give back the beans. So we only pay for the juice that is extracted, and the beans are given back to the farmers. So they also don't lose their beans out of ice, because the beans are sort of their gold, right? So it's really important to have that process transparent as well. And that is the current solution that we're working on. So we're working with geolocation and then really good planning on where to be at what time, so you get at least enough spots to be able to produce as much as you can. Our processing partner COA has a great system for this, and we're still improving on this together for the scalability. But as they are already working together with around 2,000 farmers in this manner, so it has been working. But it is one of the things that is a great challenge, but also one of the things where we can use econometric models and more data analysis on how we can improve pot picking without interfering too much in the original supply chain of beans, and also without losing the trust of the farmers who we work with, because they're our most important asset, of course. I hope this answered your question, Jan.
Yeah. It answers the question. And in terms of pricing, do you think it's okay how you value Kumasi at the moment? Do you think the pricing is okay to the ordinary consumer?
Towards the consumer, yeah, we're a premium soft drink. It's not the cheap. It's not going to be a Coca-Cola. But I think that's part of the change, right? We have to start to get used that good things are sometimes a bit more expensive. But by sharing, also being transparent about what our costs are and what the impacts are, we do see that so far that has not necessarily been a big problem with acquiring customers, especially B2B. Of course, from the direct sales to consumers online, people do think that the price that we're at is a bit high. But we really believe that via a lot of PR that we're having, and we have a lot of media attention, we are sharing more of our story. And I also thought that was one of the questions from Sophia. The more and more we tell about our story and why we're doing what we're doing, we also see that together with the other awareness raising topics that are going on in climate change, a lot of force, and about fair chains, that we really have a momentum on bringing a premium impact soft drinks soda to the market.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Jan. I can imagine the headache, Linda, for the company, and working with different groups of people that probably speak different languages too, and then you need to organize that from somewhere and still respect this decentralized system. So I'm sure it's a challenging job, but you also learn in the process. but I'll go straight to the next question. Ingrid, I know your hand is up. I'm just respecting who's in line still at the cafeteria. I'm also at the back of the line waiting for my food. And Dylan, if you'd like to ask your question, please go ahead, but I'll start reading. So Linda, Dylan asks, it is great that you're using an underutilized byproduct. Why do you not also trade in cocoa beans? There are a number of companies that are working to produce chocolate at origin.
Great question. We are working on that on a very small scale, because we're testing now if the quality of our beans are better after pressing. There is quite some literature on that. So there is a hypothesis that we're now producing better quality beans, of course, respecting the right way of fermentation and drying as well. And we're working together with a brilliant chocolate maker, Alexandre Bellion, on this. And we are now, as we speak, testing together with Alexandre and Anna Laven from Brookbar, another great social enterprise, if we are indeed producing better beans and as a result also better quality chocolate. But I have to keep you posted on this.
I was wondering, I mean, that it's a question for later, what your competition is, not for chocolate, but for the byproduct of the pulp and as a drink. But I'm not going to skip my turn. I'll go first to Sophia and then to Ingrid. Sophia, if you'd like to ask your question, please interrupt me.
Yeah, I'll interrupt you. Sorry.
Right.
So yep, I've just found my unmute button, so that's fabulous. I know you partially answered this, Linda, in your answer to yours question earlier, but just to hear a bit more about your marketing campaign to raise awareness for what is completely a new product. And did I understand correctly that you've only been trading kind of 2 years? So I'm interested to see how you're developing a following in the Netherlands and what your plans are to increase that to sort of more European states, possibly the UK, preferably.
Yeah, hopefully. So we started the company 2 years ago, but we launched our products in the Dutch market this year, January 2021. So we're only on the market for 11 months and it's going really well. We have currently more than 300 locations in the Netherlands where you can buy Kumasi Drinks, and we've reached 10,000 of consumers. So with regards to the sales and the marketing, we do believe we are being successful. A lot has been built in the beginning on the documentary. We were on Dutch television quite some times. I think around 7 or 8 times our documentary was shown, if I'm correct. And we also had some small dailies, what they're called, on the 5 major challenges within the cocoa industry. So we had quite some momentum on the Dutch market, and that really translated in sales, new customers, and a lot of conversations with bigger chains now. So it's working well. I think we're still learning a lot on the marketing is great, and we're really feeling that people love what we're doing. I think where we still are learning is how do we utilize our impact part as best as we can. Because when you would ask me if I would write a label for our Kumasi Drinks, you will get this very long academic story on why it's good what we're doing and why I love pulp and why I think it's extremely interesting and important to raise living wages, but also that it's extremely difficult. So nobody's really going to read that. Probably only the 11 people in this call would be really interested in knowing the academic background. But the majority of consumers just wants to know a few highlights, and we're still working on which highlights work best in consumer communication and how we can translate such highlights in a really, really cool marketing campaign.
That's really interesting. I was going to ask about if there was a kind of demographic that you've seen that was most popular with, but it's far too early to say, I would assume.
Obviously, we have our assumptions, and we do see that it's especially around the majority of our customers is female, and around 30 to 40 with a bit of a higher than average income. That we have several demographics that we're targeting, but we still have to learn who and how we can target the demographic groups most efficiently. I hope
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for answering that.
Thank you for the question, Sophia. I imagine, Linda, that if you're marketing outside of the Netherlands, then you'll have to adapt the strategy at some point as well, and that will be interesting to follow moving forward. I know that me as a client, if I can say so here, I tried to purchase some Kumasi drinks, but then I would have wanted to ship it to the UK, and I didn't find on the website yet a way of having the shipping cost be low enough for me to for it to work out for me. I'm just buying as an individual. I'm sure if you're a company, then there are the economies of scale, but that's something as a client here on this webinar that I would say. But I'll go next to Ingrid. Your hand is up. I believe you have another question. You've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
Thanks, Simeon. Actually, a comment / question. So, Linda, I'm actually based in Switzerland. I'm a researcher at the Bern University of Applied Sciences, and I wanted to mention a case. It's super interesting. It's a startup, also a social enterprise called COA. And a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I met them, very dynamic young guys, just fresh out of college. I think it was like somehow related to some type of college business startup that they had going there. But the thing is that COA has evolved also in pulp, and their product is juice. But very interesting, in February, I think this year, Lind, as Lind and Sprungli, launched a chocolate bar where they sweeten it also with the pulp. And it's very interesting because they created a whole package, and they added information on, natural sweeteners or cocoa, sweetened with cocoa pulp and so on. And it was kind of like an innovative product that was received very well in the market. I can send you this information in the chat, but it's super interesting. I don't know if you've considered also the industry as one of your target clients or markets.
I know them very well, Ingrid, because we work with COA. So in Ghana, they are a processing partner that we work with a lot. They started indeed around 4 years ago, and we have an extremely well relationship. I just came back from visiting the farm, so we purchased now the juice via them with our impact pink prints, as we call it. I love COA, obviously. They are great. They've been doing so much for the cocoa juice industry. And what we are, how we are collaborating is that they have now that B2B collaborations on the pulp, for instance, and we are really opening the market to bigger demand for the juice from our side. And how we do work with B2B companies is that we're looking into collaborations on several products with the bigger companies. So what they've been doing with the pulp, we're looking forward to having collaborations, and we have a few discussions going now with the Kumasi branding on packaging. So we're looking now at the bigger companies that are active within chains and maybe not as adaptive as we are, that we can collaborate on creating products, as what COA has been doing with Lindt, for instance. But indeed, COA is great, and I'm a big fan as well. Thank you.
Thank you also, Ingrid, for mentioning the new product by Lindt. I'm going to look that one up and try it if I can find it.
It's nice.
I know I see a question from Dylan for you, Linda. Before, I hope it's okay I say this too, Dylan. I know that the family farm harvests coffee beans on site and then serves coffee using those same beans, if I understand. So the food miles for this particular coffee bean is extremely low. So that's some context. And this is the question. You spoke about a decentralized model of processing in country and then exporting the raw material to be finalized in country of consumption. Having studied this in depth, there are a number of problems associated with this model. Have you researched a centralized model in country to fully process the product from pulp to bottle?
No, we are looking into central, but but it is too expensive for now. So we did research from a cost side to do the entire process in country of origin after and then shipping it. But we do really want to improve on selling more locally as well, either via our local products or with the bigger processing partner. But I'm curious to learn more about the problems associated with that model that you have faced, Dylan. So I'm curious if you can either share it here or share it in the chat or via mail.
I can see Dylan's on mute. You're no longer on mute, Dylan. Now you're on mute again. Yeah, so I mean, Linda, if there is a way for anyone here or people who might be listening once the link is sent out, what would be a best way to ask questions or ask for ways to collaborate, would you say? We're not at the end of the webinar yet. I'm just, with that question, I just wanted to make sure people are, okay. So in the chat, we have an email. And we have,
in the chat.
Great. And for whoever is listening, it would be Linda at Kumasi-drinks.com. And we have the next question, again from Sophia for you, Linda. So Divine Chocolate in Ghana, I believe, has a decentralized model. They found that processing the cocoa in country was too expensive, I think. So they export the raw cocoa to be processed in Europe. This is a cooperative company. And so far, I'm waiting for you to interrupt me again.
Yeah, no, sorry, it wasn't necessarily a question. It was just following on from the previous conversation about centralized, decentralized. And I know it's actually the cocoa and not like the pulp that their product is about. But I just wondered if it was something to think about where it has been found that processing in country is not necessarily the most efficient option. It wasn't just about money. I think it was also some environmental reason or something why it couldn't be processed in Ghana as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we looked into as well, like the CO2 impact of doing bottles as well. Divide is a beautiful example, but you also see more and more coming. Like, for instance, examples of Fair Afrique producing chocolate in Ghana, and that is, I do find that very inspiring. So I do hope that in the future we will be able to add more value, but also more storytelling in the countries of origin around their products. So I hope that our mini pilots with cocoa is going to be a success, and that also more chocolate making will happen in countries of origin. So within our facility is a big word, but within our pilot in the Ivory Coast, we are also producing chocolates. So with the beans we are harvesting from the juice, we're also making chocolates right now with the team there. So that it's really exciting, a really exciting development going on there. But of course, to become a real chocolate maker, other investments will be needed. And I see an addition from Paul, and yeah, I do really agree with that. So I really do hope that this juice revolution is not only going to be where we are at now, with increasing income on farm and increasing cocoa juice consumption in Europe, and there's also some movements in the USA, but really focusing on how we can start processing in West Africa as well. And as well in Brazil, there are some juice production is going on already, or especially in Ecuador, but there are some examples indeed, but definitely not enough, because it's possible to do it.
A question I have, I've been wondering about, and I realize we're now in a recording, with a new product like this, I wonder if you've already started to protect the, I don't know if there's some kind of copyright or patent you can have so that your company can continue to trade in the future once competitors start to try and roll out similar pulp-based products from Ghana and Ivory Coast. I don't know if you've perhaps approached a group like I mean, to me, it would be WIPO in Geneva, where they help with intellectual property, but I'm sure there will be other organizations you can work with too. So that's
we have
my.
a patent on our marketing, like on our branding, that is patented, but not on the juice. We want as many people as possible going to make the juice, right? If we purchase juice, or if we purchase juice from farmers and start producing juice locally, that's going to have a good impact. So I'm not too worried about protecting the juice part or other companies starting to sell juice. It's good to have competitors, and of course we have to be the best, and we want to have the biggest market share. But for us, it's really important that we're making as much impact as we can. And by having some new competitors, it keeps us really sharp on how to best position ourselves. And it helps us as well to tell the story of cocoa juice, because if you've seen other cocoa juice brands, but you love our brand the most, you're going to keep on buying our juice. But it's good to have already be aware of the fact that there are cocoa juices on the market. So that's our perspective now. Maybe I'll look at it really differently in 5 years. Now we'll look back at it reporting and be like, oh my God, no. But I'm really an open source type of person. I really hope to make as much impact as we can via our current business model, by being the best in what we do.
Congratulations to you. I'm wondering, so Kumasi Drinks has been trading since beginning of this year. So the idea would have started earlier on. I'm wondering if you know, what was the reason for choosing that part of the world, West Africa, to source the raw materials from?
So West Africa is the biggest mass cocoa country of the region where most cocoa comes from. And Lars Kierveld, the founder of Kumasi Drinks, was approached by Nestlé to make a documentary about their supply chain. So he got a carte blanche. He could do whatever he wanted and really dive into as critical as he could into the chain. And eventually a project in Ghana or a documentary about the possibility of the juice was made. So it was about the SCP program of Nestlé, which is of course their flagship program, but they didn't do anything with the juice yet. So within the documentary, Lars really started to ask questions like, okay, so we're doing a lot already with regards to sustainability. Some really example farmers are there, of course, but why is there still this great product that you're not purchasing, for instance? So, and within the documentary, he started to explore the world of cocoa juice. And after that experience, he was like, oh, well, now I've made this documentary. What to do with this knowledge, right? What am I gonna do myself now? And that was around 3 years ago that the documentary was made. 2 years ago was on television, and after that we were like, okay, let's do something with this idea and really bring the story of cocoa juice via storytelling and via the product that we have now. And that's why we ended up in West Africa. But I think also without the documentary, West Africa makes, for me, most sense. The poverty within cocoa supply chains is most severe within West Africa. The challenges are the biggest. So your impact can also be, when you're gonna have a good scalable model, our impact potentially can also be the biggest there.
And a follow-up question, thank you for telling the story. I'd like to see the documentary at some point if I can, when it all started. Sure. So I've watched a few, they're not always cocoa related, but just historical documentaries of what's happened in Ivory Coast in the last 20 years with civil unrest and what results from that. But a more uplifting question I have for the next phase of Kumasi Drinks is, now that you have a distribution network in Ghana and you're starting in Ivory Coast, is there some kind of thinking of going outside of Africa to other places that also produce cocoa? So South America, Central America, Indonesia, or is that, is that even in the scope at this time?
It's in the scope in a sense that we get approached quite a lot. and more juice facilities and factories are popping up all over the world, and people know Kumasi, so they want to be our supplier. But we have a really strict idea about what our impact has to be within the community, and we are very loyal as well to the companies that we work with now. Obviously, we are open to other collaborations, depending also on the growth that we're going to have the upcoming 4 to 5 years. But the main focus is on West Africa. And I also believe we have to get to know this context first, because we can really improve or really translate what we're doing into other contexts as well. So it's in our scope. We do have sometimes some discussions, but West Africa is for now really our main focus.
Thank you, Linda. I see a comment from Paul. If you have a question, please tell me. That his comment is, in perspective, until 1912, Cadbury was still using slave labor in its production of cocoa for chocolate bars. I know it's a controversial topic, and there's, I was saying to Dr. Bozward, there's audiobooks on this as well, telling stories of the important players also in the UK who brought up some of these stories. But I'd like to end more on a positive note if we can. It seems like the cocoa value chain does have a dark history, and some of what's going on today still is dubious, and we have evidence of it with these documentaries, but there's a lack of literature on it. And it seems like that's something we can, it's a gap in the literature that we can fill at the moment with the help of universities and companies. So, and I realize we're very close to halftime. I have more questions for you, Linda, that I would like to ask later. And if anyone else has questions, please, I'm sure Linda says it's okay for you to reach out to her. It's the end of the year, so maybe after Christmas and New Year's would be a better time to start collaborating. But now that we're at half, I'd like to say thank you to you, Linda, for your time very much. And thank you everyone else for being here today.